I am just have a few minutes this morning to show you a traditional Christmas project at my house. How traditional is it? Well, it was started by my dad in about 1963 or 4. So 54 years or 55 years tradition. When I was a kid, 1963 or 4, my dad, who was very artistic, one Christmas season, I think it was even Christmas Eve, I'm not sure, he took a bunch of the boxes that had typically accumulate around Christmas time and cut them apart, got glue, put a light bulb, Christmas light. Remember this was back in the day when Christmas lights were those huge bulbous hot 7-watt light bulbs. Do you remember those? Some of you old people remember those. And he created out of these boxes, he created a row of houses that fit on a bookshelf that we had in our house at the time. And he decorated the boxes, he created a row of Tudor style, I'm saying the word Tudor, Tudor style houses. And I called it Dickens Street, as in Charles Dickens, as in A Christmas Carol. And it had the one house on the street that was in darkness, of course, was Scrooge's house. And then Bob Cratchit's house was labeled in some way, and a number of other houses that make an appearance in the Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. So that started a tradition. A couple years later, we moved to a different house. And when we did, I was 15, 16 years old. And I started taking over the project. Then we moved again a couple years after that. And by that time, I was 17, 18 years old. And by this time, it was definitely my project. And I added buildings because the bookshelf in the new houses were longer or shorter than the bookshelves in the first house, as you can imagine. And so I reworked on the original Dickens Street for about 12 years. And we moved again. And by this time, we saw the pattern and said, wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense to build a new Dickens Street every time you're moving to a new house. So I started over from scratch in just a minute here, and I'll show you. Well, first of all, I'll show you what I'm doing. So at the moment, I'm creating a figure. She's about 3/4 of an inch tall, maybe an inch tall. And I'm putting a wide hoop dress on her because that's the style that was worn in London in the 1840s, which is when Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol. So let me pick you up here for a minute and show you. Welcome to our living room. So there's Dickens Street. Houses. Sorry about that. All kinds of things about this that there we go. There we go. How about if I set them in like this? Sorry for my cold. So some details. This building right here, the black and white one, is a replica, as it says there, even in the day that it was written. And there's Scrooge's house, the one that's mostly in darkness, except for the slight glow of a couple ghosts. A replica of Nelson's monument in Trafalgar Square. And it's made out of Trafalgar Square. That is, it's made out of... You might wonder, how can you get stones The answer is if you show up when there's scaffolding all around these. Okay, while we're on the subject, this cathedral back here is Abbey. There's a little obelisk in the middle of the intersection here, which doesn't really mean anything, but in this window here, can you see through the window? There's a fireplace. My camera's going to have a hard time. And over the fireplace is a quote unquote a painting. Well, it's actually a postage stamp, right? Can you see in 1843 when Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol? So of the old Curiosity Shop, again, a shop that Christmas Carol. Okay, so I'm going to take this roof off. All of these roofs come off, and stamp. Sorry, now you can see the stamp. There you go. And most of them are made out of Sculpey. But just in the last 2 years, figures, and that's what I was doing when I first started broadcasting today. That's going to bring you back to my kitchen table and work. If I take it up to my studio, it will feel, of course, like work. It's called as you can see, I've already messed with it, jerry rigged it. It's a 3D pen, glue, or low temperature, low melt glue coming out of there. And if you let that dry, it'll harden, and in this case become a straight shaft. So I'm using it, I must think, in an conventional manner, because I'm just letting it come out, and here in this case building up a mass. So once again, this is supposed to be a girl, rather chubby girl at the moment. So hang on just a second. So I have a hot glue gun here, and I can remelt her. Let's give her a little bit of a waist here. And after melting her, of course, I could still mold it with my fingers and only burn myself slightly. Most of these figures only need to look good from one direction. That's a good thing. I broke her arm off a while ago on purpose in order to make the dress. Probably should have broken both arms off while I was at it. Actually, she's not looking like a little girl. She's looking like an old lady, which is fine because I need some old ladies in my street anyway. So let's get this wire out of the way just a little bit. I started painting these figures with model paint. How many of you hobbyists, this kind of stuff? Enamel works really well for painting plastic. And some mixing colors here. I'm going to break this girl's arm off. Sorry, old lady. I want to shape her body a little bit better. So we had an unusual Christmas at my house. I hope you had a good Christmas at yours. After a year and a half of having 4 grandchildren underfoot all the time, they were all gone for Christmas. So my wife and I had the house to ourselves. We had a very quiet Christmas, which was just fine with us. Now, we are going to have our big hullabaloo family Christmas with the kids next week sometime. So we're still going to have the big Christmas. Okay, so to add arms, I'm going to make new arms. I'm not going to use the old ones. I'm going to melt a little spot on her shoulder here. Then turn on the plastic extruding machine, which is actually what it is. Create a little loop and then pinch it together, give it a spin, give it a twist. And lo and behold, there's an arm. Same thing then on the other side. I remember, now my dad has been gone for 12 years now, but he and I would work on Dickens Street whenever possible. Anytime Christmas that I got home as an adult, the two of us would work on Dickens Street. And he was a good artist. I remember, and you've heard me say that before, and I remember in particular when we were painting Dickens Street years ago, he often advocated for a more abstract treatment, say, of these figures. He said it would look better, instead of trying to be hyper realistic, just let them be sort of loose and natural and messy, because they'll read better. I'm not sure he used that word, but he could have, and he should have. And you know what? He was exactly correct. At the time, I disagreed with him slightly. I was still stuck in that stage of my life. I was still stuck in my, illustrative, realistic phase of my life. But I've since discovered that even in this regard, he was right. So here's this little character. Doesn't look, he's got a bit of a face there. Doesn't look all that great from the front. I like that it's all different colors of plastic. I've used different colors on purpose just so that it creates different textures, and then I paint and cover up as much as I want. But this character is going to be viewed from the back, and he's going to be standing in front of a bunch of Christmas carolers looking up at them. So, and he's, as you can see, it's rather abstract. It's rather messy. Now I'll paint his parts. I'll paint him. His face has already been painted. His or her, I don't know if that's a male or a female. But here, once again, even in Dickens Street, abstract is the way to go. I finished this guy yesterday. This is a shop owner holding up a dead goose, a dressed goose. I shouldn't say dead, a dressed goose. Can you see that? He's got an apron, tie, hat, and holding up a goose, because some of you remember in the story of Charles Dickens at the very end, Scrooge sends a young boy down to the poulterer's shop on the corner to buy the goose hanging in the window. So this is that goose hanging in the window, and so on. Here's another figure I was working on a little bit earlier, another dress. I discovered yesterday I didn't have nearly enough women in Dickens Street. So here, I don't know what this guy is doing. He's either got a big roll of sausages or a rope. Maybe he's a cowboy practicing rope tricks. I don't know, but that just literally happened accidentally, and I went, "Huh, that's kind of cool," and so I left it instead of removing it. So there you go. Hey, how do you like my old lady? I'll paint her hands flesh tone, and when I glue her down, she'll be ready to go. These women are probably going to go inside one of the houses, by the way. And well, let's take one here. Let's take one. I'll take you back with me over for a minute. I have a hot glue gun here, ready to go. The figures get glued into place, typically with hot glue. Also, a lot of the in Dickens Street are made out of hot glue. Maybe I'll remember to show some of that to you. Okay, you pick up all my paraphernalia here. Let's see if I can set you up anywhere. Not sure that I can. I'm putting you on the street. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm sure I lost all of my viewers there. Yeah, I did. Anyway, there's the lady glued in place inside her house. Let's put the roof back on. And all anybody will ever see of her from now on is standing there. So let me see. I started to tell you just some of the fun technical details. So that tree, for instance, right there, what is that made out of? And I'm not quite in focus. There we go. That's made out of a piece of electrical wiring. If you peel open some electrical wiring, sometimes you'll discover that the wire consists of hundreds of strands of tiny copper wire and then coated with this snow. I have a very particular recipe for snow. It has about 12 ingredients in it, including glitter, marble powder, glue, acrylic medium, and so on. Here's another perhaps interesting, that fence. And again, I don't know if I'm quite in focus. Do you see that fence? There's a couple of them. There's another one in front of Scrooge's house. Let's go over there. Do you see that fence? It's tiny, literally, that's made out of hot glue, drizzled onto glass, and then scraped off with a razor blade. And that's the wreaths that you see here and there. Those were just made last year. There's another one of those trees, by the way, made out of copper wiring. The wreaths are made out of pipe cleaner. Here's another one. Old-fashioned chenille pipe cleaner. Here's maybe a better example of it. Can you see that? Hot, melted with hot glue gun. I mean, with a hot air gun, heat gun, and then good enough. Thanks for your comment about seeing this last year. It's the Dickens Street, generally speaking, is more beautiful in the daytime. All the lights can be controlled. Let me see if you can see. You can hardly even see that what I'm doing there, can you? A little bit. There's LED lights. There's 6 different lighting systems. Oops, I just discovered right now that one of them is not turned on. There we go. 6 different lighting systems. Black light and